Does anyone actually remember Kung Fu Panda? If you've watched this movie before, chances are you love it. The general consensus seems to be that this is actually one of the best animated movies of all time. Whether that's a serious claim or just nostalgia speaking, I don't really care. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that I rewatched this movie recently, and when I did, I realized something odd. I realized that even though I remember enjoying Kung Fu Panda when I was a kid, upon a recent rewatch, it seems to be catered more towards adults. Now, before I continue, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that there are people in this world that just immediately associate animation with children, regardless of actual genre, and I just want to say those people are wrong. F you. Listen, I'm not gonna drag this whole thing out. I'm sure there's a million video essays dissecting every frame of this movie already. All I'm saying is that Kung Fu Panda seems really mature for a movie I remember being about a fat panda man and his funny catchphrase. Skadoosh. So, in this highly anticipated video from every single one of my millions of viewers, I'll be taking a look at the first Kung Fu Panda movie in full in an effort to see what we can take away from it as a viewer, and hopefully make fun of it and ourselves along the way. I'd rather just jump right into it, so grab your copy of Surf's Up for the Nintendo GameCube if you've got it. I don't have a Kung Fu Panda game, so this was the closest thing I could find. And without further ado, let's watch DreamWorks Animation's very own Kung Fu Panda. Our adventure begins with our main character. His name is Po, and he's a badass panda. We learn about this time where Po single-handedly took down an entire crime organization and protected the world from despicable evil. Just kidding. He's basically a loser. At the beginning, we find out that Po isn't some sort of badass kung fu master, but really, he's just some guy who works at his dad's ramen shop. He's always been fascinated by kung fu and by the real protectors of the world, or whatever, but that's all Po really is, a fan. Think Taylor Swift Twitter stans, but if they were older than 15 years old. Also, he's a panda, so everyone in this universe is an animal. I didn't mention that, but you know, I'm sure you figured that out by now. Anyway, Po's dad, who's not a panda by the way, is your average, I'm gonna project my own dreams onto my son type of father. He's actually really caring and supportive for the most part, but he's clearly excited for Po to take over the business and serve people ramen for the rest of his life. Turns out this guy has the best ramen in the world or something, and it's all thanks to the secret ingredient. So when Po's ready, he'll let him know what the ingredient is. Very vague, I know. We then skip ahead to Master Shifu. He's a wise old man who's mastered the art of kung fu and also the art of fucking killing people. We'll get to that. Anyway, he meets up with, get this, an even wiser and probably older old man. This guy is kind of like the guild leader. He knows and senses everything, so much so that he says he feels an evil lurking around and about to escape. This is a reference to someone named Tai Lung. Hopefully I'm saying that right. We'll get into him when it's more convenient, but just know he's super bad and super emo. The masters are scared and need to prepare for the evil attack, which is when they mention the tale of the powerful dragon scroll. This is a scroll that contains the secrets of Kung Fu, or something. I honestly have no idea. The point is they need to find the chosen one, who they're calling the Dragon Warrior, so they can give him the scroll and that person can save the day. Pretty simple. The problem is they have no idea who the Dragon Warrior is supposed to be.
Who is worthy to be trusted with the secret to limitless power? I don't know.
The story conveniently cuts to Po working at the ramen shop when he spots some signs being put up talking about the whole Dragon Warrior thing. It's announced that the whole village is invited to watch the choosing of this warrior. And not really sure why. Maybe they just like to party together or something. I don't know. Obviously, Po is excited to check it out because he's a fanboy, but if he goes, his dad reminds him to take the food cart with him so that he can sell ramen while he's there. And at first you're probably thinking, this doesn't sound too much like an obstacle for Po. Like, yeah, you gotta drag a food cart around for a bit, but it can't be that bad, right? Well, turns out the masters of the temple don't follow public property laws and regulations because they're located at the top of 10,000 stairs with no handicap ramp. How unfortunate. There's a funny bit here where Po struggles to bring the cart up, but eventually he does make it. Although, because it was so difficult for him, he's too late for the beginning of the ceremony and gets locked out. The next 5 minutes or so is just Po trying to climb a wall, basically, while the rest of the people are introduced to a group called the Furious Five, which, contrary to popular belief, isn't the name of a bad Vin Diesel movie. No, the Furious Five is a group of 5 animals who've trained under Master Shifu and who will one day become masters themselves, I think. I kind of made that last part up, but it's believable, so whatever. Every member here is interesting in their own way and voice acted by someone of note, but explaining all of that will take a while, so who cares?
I sense the Dragon Warrior is among us.
Anyway, so Po is really struggling to climb this wall when eventually he ties some fireworks to a chair to help him fly into the air. This reminds me exactly of something I've made in Gary's mod when I was like 15, by the way. Poe's chair actually kind of works though, and he flies up, but then eventually falls down. He wakes up from the fall, which is when he realizes that the Great Turtle Master guy is pointing right at him, meaning that Poe is officially declared the upcoming Dragon Warrior. It's pretty clear that he was supposed to point to the Tiger Lady behind Poe, but in the wise words of the Master Turtle guy himself, there is no such thing as an accident. Also, I'm probably pissing some people off here. The turtle's name is Oogway, I think is how you say it. But I'm just gonna keep calling him the Turtle guy because it's my channel and I'll do what I want. One overweight joke later, and we see Poe and Master Shifu at the top of the temple now speaking to one another. Shifu clearly doesn't agree with Poe being the right choice to defeat the evil, mostly because he's fat. I'm not gonna lie, Poe's weight actually does play a big part in the story. Another important thing to mention here before we move on is that Master Shifu holds Poe's finger in a special way, and apparently it's some sort of powerful finger hold that can like literally kill someone, so it's pretty serious. Yo! Is that Fall Guys? So Shifu and the Furious Five all want to see what Poe is made of, since he's supposed to be this big protector of the world, but when he goes through the training course, he fails miserably and gets hit by everything. By this point in the movie, no one really believes in Poe and thinks that there must have been some sort of mistake or accident, but remember, there is no such thing as an accident. But turns out Poe does actually have some sort of superpower, and even though it sounds super cheesy, it's probably the best superpower of them all. Poe's power is that he never gives up. I know. It's corny, whatever. Poe fails time and time again, but it's clear that he's ready to do anything that it takes to accomplish his goals. Even when Tigress straight up tells him that he doesn't belong here and that he literally is always bottom fragging, why are you in our party? What's the shape of Italy? Poe doesn't give up. He does get close to it though at one point, thinking that this whole thing was a waste of time, but that's when the Great Turtle Master shows up to give him some metaphorical words of wisdom. He's also literally holding a bright light. Master Oogway is known to be a positive, bright light that always sees the good in people. It's very clever. He even tells Poe about a saying that seems very mature for a movie like this.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
Listen, I'm not saying that kids don't understand what living in the moment means. I just think that it's said in a way that my 10-year-old self probably wouldn't understand. We then finally cut to the secure prison in the middle of the mountains where Tai Lung is held. Remember, he's the bad guy mentioned earlier. He's very bad. There's this bird guy who's sent to the prison to let everyone know that this is serious and Tai Lung will try to escape. It's the prophecy. However, the guards kind of laugh it off and are pretty confident because it turns out that they have over 10,000 guards in this prison and Tai Lung is the only prisoner. So if something goes wrong, they could easily outnumber him, surely. Anyway, I won't sugarcoat this. Obviously, Tai Lung escapes because that's the movie. Turns out the guards have a stormtrooper aim and are just completely incompetent. But don't let that take away from Tai Lung's performance here, okay? It's clear from this escape that he's the real deal. He's tough, he's fast, and he's clearly a kung fu master. What's actually funny here is that his escape was only possible because the bird guy that visited dropped one of his feathers next to him. So if they were never warned about his escape, the bird guy wouldn't have went, and he probably would have never escaped. Yada yada. Cartoon paradox. How silly. Cutting back to Poe now, and he's feeling motivated to train and get better. There's this line about how doing a full split is a sign of a true warrior, and since Poe can't even do the splits, he's clearly not the right guy for the job. But that doesn't stop him because he still tries his best. This is also when the Furious Five tell Poe about Tai Lung and his story. Turns out he was part of the Furious Five at one point. Master Shifu actually really liked him and even acted as a father figure towards him. He was a little strict, but it was definitely his favorite student. In these flashbacks, we see Shifu smiling and being like full of life. However, when Tai Lung got older, he aspired to become the Dragon Warrior himself to gain access to the Dragon Scroll. And when that didn't happen, he let out some of his gamer rage and attacked the whole town. He should probably see a psychiatrist. Sounds like he needs medication. Anyway, since then, Shifu hasn't been the same. He's a lot more strict now and hasn't enjoyed training anyone since that incident. Again, a basic concept, but it's actually kind of deep when you think about it. Especially at the time, like this was pretty new for animated movies, kinda. And speaking of adult themes, Shifu hears the news of Tai Lung's escape, so he meets the Elder Turtle on top of the hill, and they have a metaphorical debate about whether or not Poe is ready to be a warrior, but also about whether or not Master Shifu is ready to accept Poe for who he is. This is actually very interesting. And honestly, this was the moment that made me realize how much this movie actually got right.
I cannot make it blossom when it suits me.
True.
I can control when the fruit will fall.
True. Also true.
But no matter what you do, that seed will grow to be a peach tree.
Oh my god, so
You may
true.
wish
This
for
is
an
so
apple.
true. So they go back and forth about this tree and the illusion of control that it represents. Again, something my 10-year-old brain would completely shut off listening to. Anyway, we finally get that meme that everyone shares about this show. The Turtle Man says that his time has come, so he gives Shifu his staff and then just fucking dies, I think. He just disappears for the rest of the movie. He probably comes back in the sequels or something. Honestly, I have no idea. I never watched those. So this is actually another low point for Po. His self-esteem is down the drain, and although Shifu is ready to start training him, they both have no idea how they're gonna get to the point where Po is ready to take out someone who probably works out 25 hours a day. We then cut to a day later when Shifu catches Po stealing some food from the Furious Five. A light bulb goes off in Shifu's head when he mentions that there's actually some cookies on the top shelf. He lets Po do his thing, and then a few moments later finds Po at the top of the room, not only eating cookies, but doing the perfect splits. Holy shit. This gives light to that famous quote where they say, "You wouldn't ask a fish to climb a tree," meaning he's been going about Po's training all wrong and needs to adapt his routines to Po's strength. Also, his strengths being that he's fat and likes food. Obviously. I guess it's meant to be empowering, you know, that he's a bigger guy and can still do this stuff, but it does come across like a little goofy. Like, oh, every overweight person can just do anything as long as you dangle some chocolate cake in front of them. Anyway, Po and Master Shifu go through an extensive training montage, which includes food. And in the end, it's Po who actually gets the best of Shifu by finally being able to take the dumpling out of his hands. Hell, Po even gives it back to him once he has it. How motivational. Again, the whole Po is big thing is pretty cool, even if it's a weird direction by today's standards. Pandas are usually pretty big anyway, so it makes sense. Plus, like I said, the intent is to be empowering, turning something everyone thought was a fault into a strength. Rewatching this as an adult really makes it feel like a different movie. At this point, I should probably mention that the Furious Five, mainly Tigress, really didn't believe in Po, so they went to go fight Tai Lung by themselves. They eventually get wrecked since Tai Lung has been saving his ultimate ability for like 20 years now and used it on them. And so their failure proves that the only one ready to face Tai Lung is the Dragon Warrior himself. So Po is actually like the final hope now. Everyone else who tried has failed. This is when Shifu decides that Po is as ready as he'll ever be and hands him the Dragon Scroll using the staff Turtle Man left behind. No one really knows what's gonna happen when he opens it, so this is like a pretty big moment.
Can I punch through walls? Can I do a quadruple backflip?
Focus.
Will I have invisibility?
Focus.
Huh?
Focus.
Quadruple backflip? Po does what no man has ever done before and opens the scroll to reveal nothing. Wait, what? Nothing? Oh yeah, the scroll is empty. There's nothing inside it.
So like, Oogway was just a crazy old turtle after all.
Turns out the scroll is nothing. It doesn't say anything, and without the help from the scroll to guide them, Po immediately loses all his confidence he built up during that last act, believing that he just wasn't capable of ever being the Dragon Warrior, which is why the scroll is blank. Being very sad, Po returns home to finally talk to his dad again, which is when his dad realizes that his son is pretty bummed out. He seems really depressed. He probably watched Matt Pat's retirement video, I think. So to cheer him up, Po's dad finally decides to tell him the secret ingredient of his beloved ramen. Remember that thing that was alluded to at the very beginning of the movie that you probably forgot by now? Yeah, that thing. Po doesn't really care initially, but then his dad tells him that the secret ingredient of his ramen is nothing. Yeah, nothing. Doesn't exist. The idea of a secret ingredient is what makes the ramen special, but there really isn't anything special inside it. This is when we get a silly quote that actually ended up being one of my favorite moments in the entire movie.
You don't add some kind of special sauce or something?
Don't have to. To make something special, you just have to believe it's special.
This moment alone makes Po look back at the scroll and realize that the secret ingredient to the ramen and the scroll is nothing. So even if the scroll doesn't have some sort of special wisdom inside it, it doesn't matter. Turns out true wisdom is held within. How deep. This is probably the biggest adult moment in the entire show. It's here when Po realizes that he doesn't need help from a third party. He's powerful because he believes that he's powerful. You don't need someone to give you reassurance or constant validation. Love yourself and the rest will come more easily. Anyway, during this moment, Tai Lung finally made his way to the top of the temple and faced off against Master Shifu. They have an epic battle and it's super epic and stuff, but ultimately Tai Lung gains the power of the gods like Raiden from Mortal Kombat and gets the best of Shifu. Emotional moment here actually when Shifu admits his wrongdoing when Tai Lung was a kid. Shifu, I guess, only focused on training him as opposed to letting him live his life as a proper child, kind of robbing him of his childhood. Tai Lung just chokes him out and says that he honestly doesn't care about that, L plus ratio. He just wants his goddamn scroll, which is when Po finally appears.
What are you gonna do, big guy? Sit on me?
Don't tempt me.
Po kind of fails at fighting him, but I'm not kidding here. He's so chubby that he bounces off stuff and reflects all the attacks back towards Tai Lung, fully embracing who he is. The two then have an awesome fight, which actually has good choreography. Po sits on Tai Lung in slow motion. It's a good time, just trust me. The score playing is kind of serious, but it's also kind of goofy, something you'd hear in an intro scene of an Ice Age movie or something. Anyway, I won't sugarcoat it. The whole fight makes Tai Lung look like a little baby who's got no fighting skills whatsoever.
Little baby man. Little baby man.
But eventually Essentially, both are fighting for the scroll, which is when Po imagines it to be food or something, which gives him the power to best Tai Lung and defeat him forever. Well, actually, Po kind of loses, but when Tai Lung opens the scroll and realizes that there's nothing inside it, he freaks out. Of course he does. He's the bad guy, so he doesn't understand what's going on. And then again, because Po is fat, Tai Lung can't hurt him, I guess.
Stop it. I'm gonna pee.
At the very end, Po grabs his finger in a callback to the beginning and the deadly finger hold thing, which is when we finally see the fear in Tai Lung's eyes and what's probably the movie's most iconic line of all time.
I figured it out. Skadoosh.
Everyone just fucking dies. Po straight up just kills Tai Lung and the world is saved. What a wonderful story. The adventure ends with the Furious Five finally accepting Po as the Dragon Warrior. And Master Shifu, although hurt, is alive and well. And what better way to end the entire movie than with one final weight joke?
You wanna get something to eat?
Yeah.
Get it? Because he's fat. And that was Kung Fu Panda, a movie I always hear people say is one of their favorites, and I'm really happy I rewatched it. Like I said countless times, this movie seems to be more adult themed than I remembered. Constant themes of self-struggle and finding yourself gives this movie a reason to keep watching, even if you think you're too old for it now. Also, obviously the animation's great. I didn't really talk about that much, but the voice acting is awesome too. The whole cast did a great job. But yeah, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment your favorite moment of this movie, and become a member if you want. Thank you to all my members, by the way. They're on the screen now. This could be you. Whoa. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid 5 Furious 5 members for 5 Vin Diesels. And yeah, thanks for watching.
I'm gonna pee.
That is why it is called the present.